Hello and welcome to the Deep NBA podcast. My name's Sean and joining me as always is the one and only Dante Boffin, Mr. Boffin man. How are we?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Winner of the Deep 2 Bowl.
Yeah.
Between Phoenix and Golden State just now. So, I saw approximately 47 seconds of it. So, can say I've been along for the ride, feeling pretty good.
I was trying to come up with a name for the Deep 2 Bowl and I thought about it for about half an hour. There are none.
Well, the Deep 2 Bowl is like a good...
Yeah.
I for one appreciate the gag of
the
just
Sean
calling
Bowl.
things bowls. Like anything, like the whatever bowl. The Sean Bowl between Denver and Golden State. That's huge. I love that. I think the Deep 2 Bowl is a good name. I think that it's not a hilarious gag, but it's got a little bit of cachet, at least in my book anyway.
It's a good starter joke, start a pod.
Yeah.
To then over-explain.
And we're professionals here, so that's exactly why we've put it at the front of the episode.
Yeah, and we're professionals, so we're sitting on the table with my Jordan Poole and Steph Curry jerseys, which I tell you what, at a three-quarter time, I ran into my room, I took the jerseys off the rack.
Ran into your room.
I was
got to get there.
I was pretty excited. We played really good D on that last possession to stop DeAndre Ayton missed 3 floaters. But put the jerseys down and I just thought to myself, man, this is going to be so nice when Dante rocks up, a fat L on Phoenix's record, and I can just show him the guy who changed the game and the guy who's going to change the game, being Steph Curry and Jordan Poole. Do you like those jerseys?
Yeah, I do. I like the Curry one better than the Poole one. I will just say, so I missed the game because I was at the library working through, and I was periodically checking my phone, probably a little bit more than I should have been doing. But I'd check my phone and I'd see a message pop up in the group chat, and it would just be you, and you'd be like, "Man, Poole is so sexy." Oh my god, that baseline spin into the jumper, so fucking good. So every 8 minutes, like clockwork, you're just obviously salivating over Jordan Poole. It's a little bit if there wasn't the world's widest ocean separating you, I'd be give guys some space, please.
Yeah, but Jordan Poole, just an absolute sexy performance.
What did he come out with? 36 or something?
Yeah, 36. He missed a free throw late, which is uncharacteristic for the guy who's leading the league in free throw percentage. But he hit 7 threes, was 11 of 22 from the field with 38 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists.
It's not a bad day at the office.
This is his 21st game in a row that he has scored at least 20 points. And just before he started on that stretch, people were saying and people being Lucas Petridis in our group chat being Poole's a really good scorer, but what's his career high assists? And then he messaged us and said, we just saw it. It was 6 against Miami, right?
Yeah.
Since then, he's had a double-digit assist game, and he is making some just exceptional reads. And why I wanted to talk about this game, because obviously you didn't watch it and I watched it, so it's going to be a little bit of a shit discourse. But why I wanted to talk about the game is that the Warriors have been underwhelming last couple of games. Obviously losing to Washington, you never want to see that under any circumstances. Not having Steph Curry, Klay Thompson had an absolute stinker of a game today, but Klay Thompson's still on his way back. Draymond Green's back does not look healed one bit. We spoke about his back 2 weeks ago in our most recent episode and saying a lot hinges on that back, and it wasn't looking good. And we're going to do our NBA peers with Tiers Morgan today, but I am actually going to change. I almost changed. Maybe I will change. Maybe you can talk me into or out of it, but I'm going to change the course of the Warriors based off the most recent game, which is tiny sample size, nothing you should do, but I am so thrilled with the performance that the Warriors put on against the league's best team in Phoenix.
So you're going to bump them up? I considered doing well. We're putting the cart before the horse here, but I also considered bumping them up on the way over here. But it's just a lot does hinge on that back, even if the one who
played
changed
so well today.
Even if the one who changes the game comes back, a lot hinges on that back. I'm channeling Draymond a little bit today with a sore back.
Mad study sesh.
No, it was
slunched the whole time.
Netball Division 3 semi-final last night. So
did you win?
We played our worst half of the season in the first half. A team that 3 weeks ago we beat 18-6. We were down 4-8 at halftime. Terrible. And then we turned it on. We won 14-13 and we scored the last 3 goals of the game.
Wow, that's sick.
Yeah, monster in the clutch. I really was channeling the Phoenix Sun.
It was, it was methodical, like the Phoenix Suns have been all year. Come down to the clutch, and it wasn't just like Chris Paul's doing his snake dribble. Because I actually really liked the fact that we had whoever was the man who was getting screens, and it was Kevon Looney for a bit, but they would try and switch it on his way up, and they would always keep an Andrew Wiggins type up around the free throw line, so they could switch that screener. So he would hedge hard, pushing is usually Andrew Wiggins, pushing Chris Paul away from the screen, and then you've got the mitten there, who is pretty much like his back is against the screen as well. They're like, you are not going around this, curling around to hit your little mid-range hezzy. And he did get 2 semi-open floaters off those actions, because it simply was a straight drive to the hoop. But like, before even talking about Chris Paul just like cutting us with the scalpel, him just playing defense and just being everywhere, and the team playing really good defense, and Mikal Bridges being long. It's scary, and we obviously, like I've said, we talk a lot about the offensive execution, but defensively it was like, I felt hopeless. If we do one thing wrong, which was Klay Thompson not cutting, all of a sudden Draymond can't get that pass going through, and then all of a sudden we have to like throw up a shot with 3 seconds left. It's looking pretty good. And is that a good little segue into NBA tiers?
That's a great little segue into NBA tiers. I just want to add on that.
So it wasn't a great segue.
It was a good segue, but I'm just ignoring it. Like, you're in the corner like, yes, and I'm like, no, I'm waving you off. The Suns have not lost a game all season when they enter the 4th leading, and this is probably the closest that we've come to that being in jeopardy, because up until 30 seconds left it was truly in the balance, and then it was that the Draymond travel with 30 seconds left, and then Chris Paul did hit one of those little floaters out of the snake dribble when he did kind of get free. And then it was kind of sewn up as long as the free throws dropped. But it's pretty remarkable. In a remarkable season, that might be the most remarkable stat of all. That's like, if the best team in the league is beating you after 3 quarters, like, you can just like mail it in the 4th. Anyway, should we get to the...
No, we shouldn't. I've got 2 things to mention.
Wow.
First one is, this is like the 4th time we've played in the regular season, and you've come up victorious 3 out of 4, I believe, or 2 or 3. The first time it happened, you and I were 1 and 2, and we went camping and missed the whole entire game together. Yeah. And had to leave like the campsite the next morning, check our phones, and be like, "Oh, Dante got me." But obviously, we weren't together anymore because we were driven away.
Yeah.
Bit anticlimactic, but that was 1 and 2, and this is like no Steph Curry. Like, we're trying to hold on to the 3 seed, which after this loss, we might actually like fall to the 4 seed and meet you guys in the second round. I'm super excited for 7 games of this, or 4. I'll take whatever. Yeah. But Bossman 99, Jay Crowder, the 3rd Morris brother.
That is slanderous.
I'm starting to dislike him like a Morris brother, but he had a very, very good call today where Jordan Poole was at the free throw line because we were in the bonus for the past couple of minutes, and Draymond was, they both got a double tech earlier in the game and they were bumping each other, bloody blah, and Bossman 99, as Draymond was just like, something, he was just saying it to each other, and you could hear this as clear as day on the mic. Every single time Draymond just spat at him, like, fuck you, man, like, you're a piece of shit. Bossman 99 was just like, make a layup, make a layup, make a layup, make a layup. And that's all he said for the whole entire time. Jordan Poole was shooting 2 free throws.
Did he make a layup?
No, he missed so many layups. Yeah. And they weren't even like, it wasn't even like, oh, he got fouled. It's like, nah, he just missed.
Yeah. Jay Crowder has it down perfectly though, because he can just chat whatever amount of shit he wants, because he's never going to be in a situation like he's so boxed into a defined role. He's never going to be in a situation where the opponent can be like, oh, like, you're not good, because he's actually got his 2 responsibilities is to like make threes, which he does, and play tough D, which he does. He doesn't do any more. He doesn't do any less. So it's like, you can't say to him like, oh, you're fucking shit. No, he's not. He's great at what he does. He's never going to overstretch himself. With someone who has more of a ball dominant role or whatever, like if you're having a bad night, you leave yourself open to, like Draymond, you leave yourself open to criticism of like the very basic elements of what you should be doing. Crowder just like is always going to have those very basic elements down, which means he just fucking run his mouth and do whatever he wants. yeah, I love him, having him on my team. But 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when Devin Booker scored 70, and afterwards he was like on Instagram, like in the comments, being like, never seen anyone get so excited about a loss. And Booker was like, you can't guard me. And then Crowder came back with like some shit. I was like, fuck this guy. I hate this guy. But when the shoe's on the other foot, I will fully compromise my morals.
It's like me and Nemanja Bjelica. I hate him when he's not on my team, and I hate him when he's on my team. All right, so let's get into the NBA tiers, which is something that I think this is the first time we've done it all season, but it's probably the best time to do it.
It might be the first time we've done it like ever. We don't generally go to the tiers.
That's true. But yeah, we're gonna rank all 30 teams in tiers set by us.
Let's steady on, because I don't think we should worry about the bottom. I don't think we should worry about like the bottom 8. I have nothing to say about the Indiana Pacers and the Orlando Magic.
Okay, well,
I'll rank 22, you can rank 30.
But we're going to go through the teams in the league. We're going to look at, we're going to talk about where we see them in the NBA's pecking order. And if you hear, there's going to be multiple teams in most tiers. And if you hear multiple teams in a tier, and maybe we'll say, my first tier, your first tier is Phoenix, Memphis, Brooklyn, and the Bucks. Now, that's not in order. It could be, but let's just say, the difference within the tier is so negligible, so don't fight too much on who's actually going to be in the tier and stuff.
Yeah. The tier is what's important rather than the order of the teams inside the tier.
Cool. All right, well, let's start off with your tier 1.
So
who's in there?
Stole my thunder. So I've got the Suns, the Grizzlies, the Nets, and the Bucks. Obviously the Suns kind of need no introduction, so I won't spend too much time on that. Milwaukee obviously won last year and has just given the vibe of like a switch flip team. You're just kind of like waiting for them to get to when it really matters, and you have faith that they'll be able to turn it on. And we've seen that when they do turn it on, they can get to that late stage of the competition. And then I think the Nets, I kind of ummed and ahed about where to put them, but ultimately I do think they are like a genuine dyed-in-the-wool contender, because no other team has two players who have the offensive volatility potential that the Nets do. My goodness, Logan, please. That the Nets do in KD and Kyrie, and there's kind of no analog for what this team's going to be. You can't look at the season and say, well, they're shockingly close to 500. They're the 7 seed. I don't really think they're going to be able to do much, because we've never seen KD and Kyrie play 20 games together in a row. It just hasn't happened. And I think the signs of when they are together, being they've played together for 3 games on the road, and then they don't play together for another 2 weeks. As good as they were in those games, if that's a baseline and they're only going to get better from that, I think that they genuinely can knock off any team in the East, because the East is so flat at the top. There's so little separating everyone. So if you think that they're better than, the 4 seed, they're probably better than the 2 seed as well. Or they can beat the 2 seed. So I've thrown them in there, and the Grizzlies are in there as well, on the proviso that Ja is back healthy at some point in the first round. Because although I think they can win a series against any of the play-in teams in the first round without Ja, they can't win a series in the second round without Ja and beyond. So his health, coming back from injury, will be key for that.
So my tier 1, which I've labelled bona fide contenders, are the Phoenix Suns, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Boston Celtics before the Time Lord injury. I honestly.
So what does that mean? That's are they in the tier or are they not in the tier?
Nah, I've got them in a lower tier. As you can see, I've written Boston Celtics post-Time Lord injury. But I just want to say, it's such a shame that Boston, they won 22 of the past 26 games. Jason Tatum's doing everything on offense. Derek White hasn't even hit his own stride yet. Time Lord Williams, if you had extrapolated this out for the whole entire season, he's probably up there in the Defensive Player of the Year voting. I mean, I think that's pretty set in stone.
Yeah, definitely.
Leading one of the best defenses ever in the modern era.
The best this year, and he's the anchor, and he's 3rd in the league in blocks per game. So,
but let's not talk about that too much, because it's not going to happen.
It's sad though.
It is sad, and let's pour one out.
Also, just a quick
for
aside.
for the team with 18 championships.
What was the contract that he signed last year? It's
4 for 44.
Yeah.
Like Steph Curry is
Crazy.
Yeah. It's, Which is like, if you can get Rudy Gobert on fucking 4 for 44, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
5 times more expensive than that, unfortunately.
So I think the one thing I should explain myself here is that we have the exact same tier, except I don't have the Grizzlies or the Nets.
Yeah.
I honestly might just change this right now and put the Nets in there, because obviously Kyrie Irving being able to play home games is a massive thing.
Yeah.
And Bill Simmons said this on his podcast yesterday. He did a bit of a monologue, and I think he put it beautifully, where he goes,
"There's nothing I love more than Bill Simmons talking for 10 minutes straight with no interruptions."
They always seem like intros, and then I'm just like, hold on a minute, it's been 10 minutes. I haven't even heard Pearl Jam. Giannis, he said, Giannis is the best player in the world. Kevin Durant is the guy I want to take every shot down the end of the game, and Jokic is the most valuable.
Yeah, okay.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually don't think Giannis is the best player in the world.
Okay.
I would say that Jokic is.
Okay.
And yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Kevin Durant's probably the player other than Michael Jordan in the history of the game you want taking every shot down no one has more cachet of hitting big shots in the last 15 years than KD. So I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I think Jokic is a better player than Giannis. So that's my only quibble.
I'm not going to disagree with you, Dante. So maybe I should put the Nets up there, but I also just want to sort of see it happen, and I want to see Steve Nash not play Goran Dragic, because he actually hasn't been very good since he joined the Brooklyn Nets, and they literally have Patty Mills right there, who does like if you've got Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant on the floor, out of those other 3 possessions, you want Seth Curry and Andre Drummond types, and Patty Mills might even be a better catch and shoot movement shooter than Seth Curry, right? So you want more Seth Currys on the court, and Goran Dragic just isn't as good at doing that, and he doesn't. Everything he's quote good at, he hasn't been that good at in a Brooklyn jersey.
Yeah, but
you don't need that,
because 2 years ago, obviously, that's 2 years is a lot of time for an aging body, and he didn't play last year.
Major
injury. The last time we saw him in the playoffs with Miami, he was absolutely sizzling. He was so good. He had a couple of series where he would have averaged like 20 and 5.
Yeah.
Which is something that neither Seth Curry nor Patty Mills have the ability to do, really. And neither of them are pure point guards. Like Dragic is a pure point guard. So having him on the floor when Kyrie's not there, in terms of the value that having a point guard on the floor brings, I think there's a place for him. I think that he shouldn't be excised from the rotation. Obviously hoping that his play improves a little bit better as he gets his legs under him.
But also, like, Kyrie Irving's going to play 40 plus minutes, so Goran Dragic is going to play 8
plus
minutes.
Might, you'd hope that that you can manage Kyrie a little bit better than that, and have him not need to play that. But yes, there should be more Patty Mills. Like, Patty Mills shouldn't be losing his minutes because of Dragic. I agree with that.
The best piece of instant karma we could get is if Kyrie Irving gets COVID or is a close contact, and being an unvaccinated player, which is his choice, he would have to sit out for at least a week just for contact tracing, because he's not vaccinated, unlike the vaccinated players who can just monitor symptoms and not have to miss games. Now,
we have been as critical of Kyrie over the last 3 years, the entire time we've been doing this podcast, for a variety of reasons, as anyone in the basketball commentariat. But I actually don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm like, okay, he's back. Even if it means Kyrie getting nice things, I just want to embrace him being back.
And
I just
good
want
basketball.
To see what the Nets are going to be like when he's actually on the floor. And like the Ben Simmons smoky, is he going to play?
No, he's not. I'm factoring.
Is he going to come in like game 7 and have like 20, 10, and 6 and just be like Blake Griffin, Blake Griffin short roll extraordinaire?
No, there is no Ben Simmons. We are operating under the assumption of no Ben Simmons. He apparently has a prolapsed disc, which would be months.
Yeah.
All right, the other team I don't have in my tier 1 is the Memphis Grizzlies, who I will use to move into my tier 2. Memphis Grizzlies are at the top of my tier 2, which I've called Conference Finals hopefuls. By the way, for those playing at home, I've moved the Nets to tier 1. Dante's talked me into it. My tier 2 Conference Finals hopefuls has the Memphis Grizzlies, Golden State Warriors, and Dallas Mavericks. The reason I don't have the Grizzlies higher is because as I was having a laugh in our group chat yesterday, like, fuck them kids.
That's so Iggy of you.
They always have a chip on their shoulder for no reason. No one's really counted.
It's literally just Dylan Brooks.
Yeah. And I don't like Dylan Brooks. But I just want to see him do it. Like, I want to see, Jar's coming back from an injury, but I want to see them do it in the playoffs. I want to see Jaren Jackson Jr. when people are actually going to really, like, not give him wide open 3-point shots.
I'll tell you what Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to do when people don't give him wide open 3-point shots. 2 of 13. That's what he's going to do.
There could be quite a few 2 of 13 Jaren Jackson.
Jaren Jackson Jr. has no bag.
Yeah, neither does LeBron. So yeah, you've got them in tier 1. I've got them in tier 2. What made you want to trust them that much?
Because they've demonstrated that they can kind of like just rally when they don't have Jar. Like, their record with Jar is like 15, and their record without Jar is like 15-4 this season, which is pretty insane considering how important Jar is, and being like a lock for an All NBA team. To be that good without your best player. Especially on a team that's top head, like Jar's far and away their best player, is really impressive. And I think, assuming that Jar comes back towards the end of a first round series, which is what
is that the timeline?
What his timeline looks like. I think they can easily dispatch, let's say hypothetically, a New Orleans or a Clippers or a Timberwolves, any team that they're going to play in the first round in that 7 spot, be it the Nuggets if the Nuggets slip, be it the Timberwolves if the Timberwolves stay there, I think they can easily do away with that team without Jar. And then once you get into the second round, it's like, well, conference finals hopefuls, you get Jar back, you're only going to win 4 games from there. And I think that this team could do it against, any of the top 4 in the West currently. So what if I don't know how the brackets are going to work out, but hypothetically they get Utah in the second round. You'd be fucking putting your money on Memphis.
Whoever gets Utah second round is going to be licking their lips, even though Memphis did get the gentleman's sweep last season in the first round. But look, if they get Minnesota, Utah, Phoenix, I'm not picking them in that Phoenix series, but that's arguably the better route than Phoenix having to play Clippers easy, Golden State, Memphis, or whoever it may be. I just want to see him prove it first. Yeah,
fair enough. But they strike me as a team that will prove it. Like, there's not a lot of flash without substance to this team. I think that everything is backed up. They've taken steps slowly. It's not like they've just all of a sudden got good. This has been building for a few years. They've got the playoff experience last year. So there's not going to be any of this it's their first time jitters. Not that they've been there, done that, but they've kind of dipped their toe in the water, which should help them hit the ground running. I'm optimistic. It just really depends on Jar's health. If I knew that Jar if Jar's health was more up in the air than it currently is, I don't think I could have them as a contender. But just assuming that they get him back at some point in the first round, I think that they'll.
Yep.
Could I see them winning a second round series? Absolutely. And if you make it to the conference finals, probably with the exception of that Portland season, if you make it to the conference finals, you are a genuine contender.
And then the rest of the tier for me, I've got the Golden State Warriors because I'm a blind homer. But look, for the complete opposite reasons to the Memphis Grizzlies, me not trusting them to go up a tier, I trust the Golden State Warriors, who some people might have them in a tier 3 or something below this level because they have the championship cachet. They've been there before. You know that when those 3 guys are on the court together, which they've been on the court for 11 minutes and 8 seconds together, but when they are on the court together, that being Steph, Clay, and Dre, they can win championships. And the past 3 hours have made me so much more confident about this team than the past 72 hours.
I've never seen someone so happy about an L.
Yeah, I know. Just call me Devin Booker against Boston. And then I've got the Dallas Mavericks there because Luka Doncic, please win a first round series this year. Although I would love it if Jokic beats him in the first round, and all of a sudden it's hang on, Luka always loses in the first round. That would be a really nice narrative.
Yeah, that'd be a fun series.
But yeah, Dallas Mavericks, I raved about their trade deadline acquisitions, and I think I'm probably right. Maybe not so right on Bertans. He's still not very good, but Spencer Dinwiddie's been incredible.
Yeah. Who would have seen that coming? Not I.
Actually. So who's in your tier 2?
So I have the Warriors in my tier 2. I did actually consider bumping them up to tier 1 because when they've got those 3 dudes on the court, like, we talked about it on the last pod, like Dre's famous saying that there's 82 game players and there's 16 game players. All 3 of them are 16 game players, and like I could see them just going supernova if they're all on the court and healthy together for, like a 6-week stretch. Like I could absolutely see it. Ultimately, I decided to keep them in tier 2 just because there's too much health stuff.
There's going to be Andrew Wiggins' first playoffs.
That is unbelievable. Actually, it's pretty believable. I think there's too much health stuff. Like with Ja, we know he's coming back. With Steph, he's going to be out for ages. With Dre, it's volatile. It's up in the air. Could get better, could get worse. So I've kept them here. I've also got the Mavericks, just because, Luka genuinely could just average 50, 15, and 10. And like if he does that, they're probably going to win in the first round. And then I've got the Heat and the Celtics over in the East because I think that they're the 2 teams that I would back to come out of the morass of East teams the most in that like middle tier without much championship equity. So obviously I've put the Nets and the Bucks at the very top of that. But the next group, I think, is where the Heat and the Celtics slot. And the Celtics would have been a genuine shout probably for the top had Time Lord not gone down, but it'll be tough to maintain that. I also don't have the most faith in playoff Jason Tatum because I just have been so damaged so many times by Jason Tatum settling into those long 2 rhythms, especially when the long 2s...
Please say deep 2.
Deep 2 rhythms, especially when they're not falling. Like he's posing you up and he's fading away from 18. He's fucking,
on a 6-foot guard.
Yeah, he's fucking doing it. Yeah. And then I think those teams are appreciably better than the rest of the East. That those, regardless of how the tiers, regardless of how the standings settle, I think that the Bucks and the Nets, as well as the Heat and the Celtics, are the 4 best teams in the conference.
Yeah, I just can't do that with the Celtics because so much of what they do is predicated on Time Lord just plugging holes everywhere, and Daniel Tice is not plugging those holes.
No.
It's you go from one of the most athletic bigs who's just covering off in the middle and then just like sprinting out to each corner 3-point line and blocking shots and stuff, to Daniel Tice, who does not plug those holes. I've got them in my tier 3 just below this because their offense is still good, but they're not going to win a title without Time Lord Williams.
But could they get to so tier 2 conference finals hopefuls? Do you think they could win 2 rounds?
No.
I think they could win 2 rounds because the East is so
but like every
level. I think that they could beat any of these teams.
The East is so level, but as soon as it comes to the playoffs, you've got all the best players like DeMar DeRozan, Joel Embiid, Giannis, right? They're all gonna just lick their lips when they've got Al Horford and Daniel Tice backpedaling against them.
But I guess the concept would be like currently they'd play the Bulls in the first round, 4-5. The Heat are going to potentially remain the number 1 seed. So if they win the 4-5, it's like, can they beat the Bulls? I think, yes, they can beat the Bulls even without Time Lord. And then it's like, can they beat the Heat? And I think, yeah, they probably can beat the Heat. Like, things would obviously need to go right. But do they have the ability to beat those 2 teams? I think absolutely.
Dante, you've walked right into my trap card because my next tier is called If Everything Breaks Right, which is for all those teams where it's like, can I envision it if like XYZ happens as opposed to...
I don't think that you have to envision too much to see the Celtics getting 2 series wins. I think that it's distinctly within the realm of possibility.
It's just like
more so than the teams that I've included in my tier 3. Like I think that the Celtics have less to envision. I can more clearly see a way. Also, the Celtics, like Jason Tatum right now is playing at a top 10 player level, which is better than anyone on the Heat. It's better than anyone in the rest of the East outside of Embiid on the Sixers. So essentially, he'll be the best player in the bottom half of the East playoffs.
Which is, another Bill Simmons-ism. Like, if you've got the best guy on the court, you probably win the series.
Especially in the vein of form that he's in right now.
And look, DeMar DeRozan has never done it in the playoffs. You hope he can do it these playoffs after this year.
It would be a real pooey stain on this great, incredible season, the best of DeMar's career, if he kind of gets in the playoffs and then it's like same old DeMar. No one will feel sorry for him. I will.
Yeah, but
I'll feel sorry for him.
Man, it's like
yeah.
All right, well let's move on to my tier 3, which has the Boston Celtics, but I do want to mention that I have a tier 2.5 with the Toronto Raptors. Now the Raptors would go into my tier 3 with 1, 2, 3, 4, about 10. There's about 10 teams. Every single team's here. The Raptors would be in that tier, but they have the best home court advantage in the whole entire league at the moment because unvaccinated players cannot travel to Toronto, and that obviously means Kyrie Irving. He's one of the bigger names, but there are some rumblings going around where not every team and not every potential playoff opponent has a fully vaccinated team.
Who's from the Celtics is unvaccinated?
It might be Jaylen Brown. They're actually not saying, but it might be Jaylen Brown. I've got it up here. So the Celtics and the 76ers declined to comment when asked. This is coming from Tim Bontemps of ESPN. But Jaylen Brown and Al Horford entered the NBA's protocols, which obviously you wouldn't have to do if you weren't showing symptoms, and they didn't have COVID. They came out before a week. So all of a sudden you go from the lineup we talked about before to Peyton Pritchard and Grant Williams. There are murmurs. This isn't in the article, but there are murmurs that Matisse Thybulle isn't vaccinated. He was someone who also entered the protocols. So all of a sudden, Toronto go from one of the tiers and one of the teams in tier 3 with if everything goes right to they play half the games against a little bit of an easier team. Like if they don't have to verse Jaylen Brown in a playoff series, all of a sudden they've just got a little bit better and easier of a route. And did you say route or route?
I used to say route when I first got into American football when I was a teenager, and now I say route because we're Australian.
Yeah, it also sounds funny because it's a funny word. But
also route is a word; it's just spelled differently to route. So
true.
It's just drop the e. So it's like route is said route and route is said route, and they're two distinct things.
All right, so I've got the Raptors.
If we're copying it from what the Americans are doing, it's probably bad. So as a general rule, don't copy what the Americans are doing.
All right, so the Raptors, I'll say technically they're in my tier 3 with Boston Celtics, post-Time Lord injury, Miami Heat, Philadelphia 76ers, Atlanta, Utah, Denver, Chicago, Minnesota, Cleveland, and the Lakers, with the biggest asterisks I've ever seen. Bigger than Asterix's friend from the cartoon Asterix, the big fat Nordic bloke. Bigger than him. This is, if everything breaks right, I can see them making a run at the conference finals. How about you run through your tier 3, who you've got there, because it's much smaller than mine, and we'll talk about some of the discrepancies.
So I've got the Sixers, the Jazz, the Bulls, and the Nuggets. And I feel the best about the Sixers here, just because they have
top-end talent.
They have the top-end talent here. But James Harden's been kind of shit since he came to Philly.
Dude, he had 30 points against the Knicks. Did you miss that? He absolutely killed Portland the other day.
He absolutely killed fucking Portland's college team. I checked the fucking Portland box score during, at the end of one of their 124 to 90 losses, and I literally don't even know half the names.
Yeah.
I'm like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
But Harden has been bad. He certainly hasn't been Harden, and in the few Philadelphia games that I've watched, I think I've watched 3 games since they traded for him. He's not impressive whatsoever, and they're not gonna win without him being, 80% of his absolute best, and he's probably only playing at about 50. I mean, the stats look good, good enough compared to the rest of the league, but it's knowing what this guy is capable of it, and just the eye test. There's no, he's not shooting well. There's no burst getting to the rim. He's certainly not engaged defensively. Not that we should have expected that, but
well, this is his last chance to win a title. You don't reckon he wants it?
Fucking you're reunited with your best mate. You're playing with a literal MVP candidate. You're playing for a team that's gonna pony up a max for you in the off season. Stop whinging that you didn't get calls and get back on D. Like in the Phoenix game the other day, at the end of the game, like there was like 3 minutes left, and he was complaining to the ref about a call that happened the previous play. Like he had like not gotten a call. The ball had come back down to Phoenix's end. The ball had gone out of bounds for a foul or an out of bounds. We were inbounding it. And he was complaining to a ref, and Chris Paul just went quickly and got the basket on him because he was like fucking whinging. It's like, dude, there's 3 minutes left in the game. Shut up.
Can you imagine how good Chris Paul would have felt running past to complaining?
And there was some great footage they had on the Suns broadcast with like a minute left, and he hits one of his little like snake elbow jumpers.
Yeah.
Doc Rivers calls timeout and like walks onto the floor as Chris Paul is coming, like, you know, like backpedaling and kind of like turning around, and they just like lock eyes. Chris Paul just like locks him, and Rivers is coming out.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I've got Philly in this tier below a lot of the other teams that you would think they should be with. I don't trust Doc Rivers to change anything if anything's going wrong. And in fact, I trust him to go the opposite direction if things start going bad. Like there is no reason to believe Doc Rivers is going to adjust. He hasn't for as long as I've known him. We go way back. And like the 3-6 right now is Philly versus Toronto. Who knows who isn't vaccinated on Philly outside of Matisse Thybulle if Matisse Thybulle is unvaccinated. But you're going to have every long-rangey defender going on James Harden, and if they can just take care of Joel Embiid, Toronto's going to win that series.
If they can just take care of Joel Embiid with no centers on the roster.
Well, they've got
not that there's anyone.
They've got Thagic.
Not that there's anyone really in the league who can defend Embiid, but the Raptors are probably the most uniquely inequipped to defend Embiid.
But like Embiid has not carried series before.
Yeah, I mean, if you turn him into 2016 Finals LeBron and you say you are going to average 40 points a game for this series and we're going to win because no one else is going to help you, because Siakam, Anunoby and Barnes are going to take away Harden and Maxey and anyone else who wants to shoot a three.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good game plan to come into.
Nick Nurse also makes changes on the fly.
Yeah, I do like the Raptors being kind of in like a half tier as a bit of a smoky, because I do think they have the most potential positive volatility of any of those teams.
Danny LaRue had a really good point where he goes, how nice is it, and they've deserved it, that they've gone from the worst home court advantage ever, playing in Tampa Bay, getting booed at their home ground, to all of a sudden have such a unique advantage that we probably will never see ever again in the history of the NBA.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like, this is just speculation, because I don't know what the Canadian or what the Toronto like vaccine requirements are. But hypothetically, could you just get one dose? Like if you're Matisse and it's like, oh shit, we're drawn against the Raptors. Could you get one dose the week before the thing started, and then be like, I'm in the process of being vaccinated, and like, would one dose be enough to play? Because surely, like,
I don't think if your philosophy is to not get vaccinated, you're not going to change that quick if you've gone the whole season.
But then it kind of comes down, like it's easy to say in game 43 of the season, like, you're quitting on the team by not getting vaccinated, like you're not there when we need you. But like it's that holds a lot more weight when someone's willfully not participating in the playoff environment.
And like if Fred VanVleet, I don't know if his wife's pregnant, but if she has another kid, Fred VanVleet's going to be averaging 30 points, and then you're going to need Matisse on him.
What if Fred VanVleet's wife has another kid, and instead of like flipping back into like another scorched earth patch for him, it's almost like turning the tap the other way?
Why would it be like that?
Well, because she's like opened the tap for him. He had that amazing playoffs. He's voted an all-star. He's playing like a career-high level. And then the next one, it's like the tap goes the other way, so I turn the tap off. And he's back to being, a 6 foot, tenacious 6 foot guard with a streaky jumper.
Regression to the baby meme.
Could be. Okay, all right. So my tier, 76ers, Jazz, Bulls, Nuggets. Mm-hmm. Why have you, like, I just can't get around. I separated them into two tiers because I can't get around the idea of having like the Heat with the Hawks. So, like the Heat are the number 1 seed, and you're putting them with in a tier with the Hawks, who are the 10 seed.
Yeah.
Can you please speak to that, explaining how you see them in the same
they haven't looked good in the second half of the season. Their backups don't look very good. They seem to be crumbling.
How's Oladipo doing? He was he's
the hope.
He was today's Wordle. He really stumped me on today's Wordle. People are going to be listening to this probably on Friday, so I can say he really stumped me because I was like, obviously it's a guard on the Heat, and I went through Strus and I went through Gabe Vincent, and then I was like, it can't be Lowry, and I went through Lowry, and I was like, who is actually on this team that's like, a guard?
And I got it in one.
What? Yeah, did you silhouette?
Yeah.
You're a bit of a source monster with the silhouettes. Impressive.
I've got the last three.
Huge.
Yeah. And the team seems to just be crumbling from a personality perspective. We obviously saw them lash out when they were losing to the Golden State Warriors, the Jordan Poole-led Golden State Warriors. We saw a fight between Udonis Haslem, please retire, against Jimmy Butler. Do you like the whole Udonis Haslem coach-player thing?
I think that I like it. I see the value, but I just don't think that you should be
on the roster.
Like, make him a coach, and then just there's no reason that says that. Just because his title is coach, that he has to act like a coach. You could just say your role is to be in the locker room with the players and be the liaison between the coaching staff and do exactly what you're doing now. We can pay you more, and we just don't have to
get another Max Strus in there.
Yeah, we just don't have to use a roster spot on you.
Sean Livingston, Leandro Barbosa, and Zaza Pachulia all do that role for the Warriors, and they're not taking that roster spots.
They're in the locker room in the exact same way that Haslem would be.
Yeah.
Has he played this year?
Yeah, he's checked in a few times.
Yeah.
You have to get like that.
He's averaging 2.7 points and 1.7 rebounds in 11 games.
Yeah. I just also like we're glossing over the fact that the Bucks just
He's played 25 games in the last 4 years. He hasn't played more than 16 games in a season since 2016.
We're glossing over the fact that the Bucks just walked into the American Airlines Arena, flopped their willies on the court, and walked out 4 games later. Yeah. Like they wilted last year.
Yeah, they wilted last year. They didn't have Kyle Lowry last year, so I don't think a Kyle Lowry team is going to wilt unless there's someone called LeBron on the floor. That's the only thing that can make Kyle Lowry wilt. They still have 3 All-Star caliber players. Like, Lowry is not currently playing at an All-Star level, but I don't doubt that Lowry could get back to like fringe All-Star level.
What, in the playoffs?
In the playoffs, yeah.
Where he usually falters.
No, well, I mean, like
2016.
I don't think that it's a straight comparison because
I know.
He's the 3rd best player on this team. He doesn't have to score 30. If he takes 2 charges, gets 9 points and 6 assists, and he hits a timely 3, like that might be enough.
Remember when in all those Toronto years he would stay back after the game, still in the gym, still in the stadium, just putting up shots? I have no doubt in my mind he missed all those warm-up shots as well. Yeah. Like, just because there's a report that he's still there doesn't mean he's making them. Yeah. Like, he is bad in playoffs. And
well, that was the like one of the best basketball memes I've ever seen. It's like Russell Westbrook is so committed he stays back after Lakers practice to miss 100 shots.
I think Kyle Lowry's past that, but
yeah, but then that Jimmy and Bam, hopefully a fully healthy Bam on the floor together, like that trio surrounded by flawed but undeniably talented role players. That trio is enough to win. I think that they could win a series or 2. I'm not as confident about them as any of the others, but like I just can't see a way that the Hawks win even 3 games in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and I can see a way that the Heat win 2 series. So I just can't have them in the same.
I get that, and I'm not going to change.
I don't want you to change. I like you as you are.
Unless it's Brooklyn.
I didn't. Hey, you.
Oh no, to change. That's fine. I'm going to keep the Heat there.
Goddamn persuasive.
And it's cold in the A.
It's cold in the A.
It's cold in the A, and Trae Young has gotten better from last year. Trae Young in the playoffs was an absolutely exceptional beast, and you're talking about like conference finals hopefuls. Like, Trae Young has his fucking lips all over the semis, right? Like, he knows how to win a semi-final.
Okay, he's got his lips all over the semis. I'm not going to be semis for long.
I just trust the talent of the Hawks. Like, you know, you and I have done this.
Do you know, like, what is the talent of the Hawks?
An injured John Collins who doesn't fit in today's NBA, Danilo Gallinari who can't move, Clint Capella who is much worse than his backup, but his backup's really good.
Is Bogdanovic still injured?
No, he's still playing. He just obviously hasn't done anything exceptional to grab your attention. It's like, so, okay, the Hawks here are one of my outliers. I've also got the Lakers here, but I think LeBron James, Anthony Davis, like, if it goes right, if they're fully healthy, if Russell Westbrook starts coming off the bench, I think they would be quite a good team.
I guess the thing for the Lakers, though, is like, is AD coming back for the play-in? Because if he's not, and everything went well, they'd have to play the Timberwolves in the play-in. And the Timberwolves are a much better team than the Lakers without Davis. Like, even LeBron going supernova, like, I think the Timberwolves would win.
Well, LeBron has also got a rolled ankle and might be out for a couple of games.
LeBron will... No, LeBron will.
He will play. I have the Lakers in this tier, but I can also understand if they don't even make the playoffs. Like, right now, they're the 11th seed.
Are they the 11th seed today? The Spurs lost. No, they're 10. They're
Okay.
10. But it's a half game. And there's 7 games left, and they're a half game in front of the Spurs.
And the Spurs still have to play Houston.
Davis is like, where is he? Like, when is he coming back?
And also, as soon as he gets back, he's going to get poked in the eye.
Yeah, well, literally, it's gonna be like over under half time before he's back in the locker room with like a contusion or an eye.
Okay, so do you want to? I need to go to the toilet. So do you want to take a break?
This is as good a reason as any to take a break.
The depth, the deep two. God, that's a mouthful. Anyways, I'm Marco, co-host of the Hey, Daniel Gafford, what's the name of our podcast?
The JVG NBA Tribute Show.
Wow, I can't believe it's that easy. Thanks, Gaff. You probably know us as two members of the Four Man Weave plus Marco, but we know you as our next listener.
Well said, Lucas. I gotta ask, how do we differ from the Pack of Basketball podcasts?
It's a great question, Marco. You see, on our basketball podcast, we have two male co-hosts.
Wow, truly groundbreaking. After this episode, stay on your favourite podcasting app and give us a spin.
Okay, I've been to the wash closet.
The wash closet.
But a little bit of BTS at TDT. So my tier 3 is huge with like 9 teams in it. So you've sort of split it up into tier 3 and 4. Who's in the bottom half of this sort of everything breaks right tier?
This morass. So I've labelled it could be fun because it could be fun. And I've got the Timberwolves, the Cavs, the Raptors, and the Hornets. I think that the Hornets are like the odd one out here. I don't expect them to be able to do anything whatsoever substantial. But if they could, like, if the Hornets made a run, it would be like way more fun than a Hawks run. Because it would just be like, you know, like LaMelo averaging 30, just like shooting, you know, like hitting like 8 threes a game, and Miles Bridges averaging 25, and just like all these random fun guys. Mm-hmm. I think the Timberwolves, the Cavs, and the Raptors are all broadly similar in terms of their talent levels and what I expect them to be able to do, which is essentially make it a tough first round series for whoever they play. I don't think that any of them are getting out of the first round. So they're the bottom of my big group, because I just think that there's a distinction between that and the other groups where it's like my tier 3 is like the Sixers, the Jazz, the Bulls, the Nuggets. I think all those teams can win a first round series. I do. I don't think that that's the case with the other ones. So I think for me that's the distinction. So
I agree with you on everything there, but I think you might even be able to move Minnesota up a tier, and it's unfortunate that they're going to be the 7th seed and they're like their first round series is going to be one of the better teams, but if everything's equal and they're the 4-5 in some alternate universe, I think the Timberwolves are good enough to win a series.
Isn't the Timberwolves good enough to win a series? I'm trying to tell myself that they're like not, because I'm actually like low-key a little bit scared, because when Phoenix played them like maybe 10 days ago, like
it was close until the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, but everything with Phoenix is close until the last 5 minutes when the best clutch team in the league takes over. But it was more so than any game recently. I was like, with the exception of today,
of course,
I was like, oh, we genuinely might lose this. Like, they're playing really well.
Bossman 99 getting up in Cat's face.
And then Cat getting all over Bossman 99 on the poster. But what's Cat going to say to Bossman 99? He can't say anything.
Oh, I would love...
And as soon as Cat goes 2 of 11 from 3 in the series, Bossman 99 is there. He's there. And he's got ammo. He's got ammo.
Yeah. I would love to see this series just because, like, obviously you've got, the interpersonal dynamics there, and I love that Booker dunked on D'Angelo Russell and started screaming, "I got no friends," which, like, in isolation is a fucked thing to say. But then you obviously talk about the rumours that those three were going to team up, and Devin Booker just wants to play with his friends and stuff, and obviously now he's on the best team in the league. I love that, and I'd love to see that for 7 games. But yeah, I think you can get much easier first-round opponents than the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they should be.
It would be a pretty frightening uniform matchup if they continue to go with the fluoro green, because it's fluoro green versus the bright orange. That was what it was during the game that we played a few weeks ago, and it's like that is a lot of color, and especially for the colorblind people.
Yeah,
like 2 bright teams. If you're colorblind, I believe that it may be difficult to tell. I remember
you're just watching trims at that point.
The NFL did this. This thing called Color Rush for a few years, and the idea was like every team would for 1 game a year wear a uniform that was like an extreme version of their main color. So it's like if you had like blue as your main thing, you just go like fluoro blue or like an aggressive like all blue strip. And people who are colorblind like would be watching the 2 teams and they'd be like, if it's like the bright blue versus the team that's in fluoro green, like we can't tell who's who.
I thought you were going to say it was for colorblind
no,
people.
No, so they couldn't tell because the hue of the color is so intense on both fronts that you can't tell the difference.
Wow.
If you're colorblind to those colors, like obviously some people are colorblind to like just red. But if you were colorblind to both of them, often I believe, I don't want to speak for the colorblind community, but you can kind of tell by like the intensity of color, like what color it is, make an educated guess. And people were like, we literally just can't tell. So they had to stop doing it.
Yeah.
Because it was like not an accessible product. The only reason why they probably started doing it is because it's another uniform that you can sell.
You can just buy it.
So it's a bit of a cynical
remember when the MLB had the Braille?
Nah, I have not even thought about baseball for 1 second of my life.
They had, so like I'm wearing a shirt that says New York Jets. It was just the Braille. Very symbolic because no one's actually going to touch the baseball player and like read it.
Yeah, well, and also the blind people, the blind people watching the TV can't see it and be like, that's Braille.
Yeah. And
it's an interesting one.
Could also just like, you could just be like, you gaslighting me, bro. Like, no way. Because that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I thought that's where you're going with the color rush thing. One other story about color blindness. I was in year 10 science with my mates, and like we were doing some tests about like sensors and stuff, and the colorblind test where you have all the little tiles and stuff, and some of the tiles will be different colors, and like you just have to read the message and understand how that works and what might happen. So that was in year 10, and my friend Lachlan found out he was colorblind to a certain blue in year 10 in that class.
That's a drainer for a Wednesday morning.
He was like, what do you mean, miss? It's all the one colour. We're like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? And he's just gone on his whole... Because it was such like a minor, like, just a tiny colour, this specific colour. But
yeah, okay. So
how
you
about that?
Didn't have a full-blown case of the colourblindness.
You're just this one specific
thing.
And it just happened to show up one day in class.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Interesting story to tell your parents when you come home. How's your day? Well, actually, I have a medical condition.
It's like Specky McGee, and the parents are like, oh, we were going to tell you. That's a deep cut. So
that is a deep cut. 2007 would be very happy.
I have the Charlotte Hornets with LA Clippers in their own tier in my tier 4, which is behind that big morass, which is called Happy to Be Here but Still Good.
Yeah.
I've also got another tier below that called Happy to Be Here but Bad, which is the New Orleans Pelicans and the San Antonio Spurs. I'm pretty disappointed with the Hornets. I thought they were going to be doing more. All the preseason hype was, obviously some more LaMelo, Miles Bridges.
All the preseason hype and even their performance in the first half of the season. It wasn't just hype. Like they were kind of
in the playoff picture.
They were like the 5 seed for a good chunk of the first
There were articles coming out where LaMelo was like, yeah, like the whole off season, none of us left Charlotte or none of us left LA. They're like, we just trained together. Like LaMelo's hanging out with Kelly Oubre, like, man, we're working together. We're working all off season to come in. And it's like, oh my god, they might have like cracked the basketball code, and then they didn't.
Well, I guess it'll just be sustaining it. They got to start learning how to play defense. It's an important part of it. They're diabolically bad every year, and this year hasn't been any different.
And it's like Mason Plumlee's not going to fix that, man.
No.
You have the ammunition, you have the youth to go out and get someone better, like Miles Turner.
Yeah,
just go do it.
Yeah, but like, hence their inclusion in my could be fun.
Could be fun.
Like,
could be fun next year.
There's no real way of like talking yourself into they're going to make a run. But hypothetically, if you just assumed that it was possible for them to make a run, and then you thought about the run that they would make, boy, it would be fun. Like, it would be a rollick, you know?
I just see.
They're not grinding out wins, they're not grinding out like rock fights.
Okay, they're winning 120 to 130.
They're not methodical. Yeah. They're not like this. They're not like the clutch Suns where it's Chris Paul just, like literally knows every move on the chessboard. It's like threes and dunks and like fast breaks and scramble plays and frenetic defense. Like that's what it is, and that is like fun. It's never going to happen because they are a fundamentally highly flawed team, and they'll probably lose in the play-in. But in that alternate reality where that was possible, boy, would it be fun.
So my tier and 4 in this order are Charlotte, LA Clippers, New Orleans Pelicans, San Antonio Spurs. Who's in your tier 5?
So I've got the same. I just had the Lakers in there as well.
And the Hawks.
No, the Hawks are in my tier 5. Yes, they are. So no, I was thinking of you having the Hawks high. And the Hawks. So the Lakers are like, if Davis comes back, like if he's healthy, like if LeBron's ankle holds up, it's like, man, there's too many question marks here. And the potential for Davis to not come back in time, if you lose as the 10 seed in the play-in, if you lose to the Minnesota Timberwolves in Minnesota, you're done. You don't get the luxury of getting to the first round, and if you lose the first 2 games and then Davis comes back in game 3, it's like, all right, we've got a series. Like, you don't get that. And there's 7 games left. And they're a half game ahead of the Spurs. You slip up and the Spurs are right there.
Yeah. This is sort of a tier where it's like, you're going to lose in the play-in.
Yeah.
And maybe not the Clippers, but like, you're going to get swept.
The Hawks is an interesting one because I kind of wrestled with them. Because obviously Trae Young is like just a monster. But I don't have any faith in anyone outside of Trae Young. And I also think he's a double-edged sword because he's a really bad defender. And no one is going to take advantage of him to the tune of like 40 points and 15 assists, which is what he's going to do to you in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But having him out there just literally is just like a target. And the fact that they can't really thrive without him means there's no alternate look. It means that for the 40 most important minutes of the game, you're basically saying to the other team, go at this guy, and you'll be able to get it done.
But it's easier to have a weak point guard defender than it is a weak center defender or something.
Yeah, definitely. But not if the team is
shit behind him.
Not if the team it's easier to have a weak point guard defender because you can hide him on a non-offensive 3.
But if you've got no one to hide him,
no one to hide him on, or the team is running switches at him every time and getting him involved in the action, then you can't really hide him, and he's out there, and like he's gonna absolutely torch you on offense. But if he gives up 75% of that production the other way, it's like, well, his net, his net rating, his net impact on the game is going to be minimized, which you don't see from other stars in the conference who are more two-way.
I just like the fact that last season they played a Philly team that had problems and they just capitalized. They didn't falter.
Yeah.
But I'm fully happy to bring them down a tier. You didn't do the rest of the league because the rest of the league isn't worth doing. But I have 3 more tiers, so tiers 6, 7, and 8.
You're actually grinding it out on the tiers.
They're totally not grinding out. They're actually quite cheap. Very cheap jerks. But tier 6 is Too Good to Tank, which is the Washington Wizards and the New York Knicks. Like the Wizards, if you really want a good pick, you can't just accidentally win to Golden State. The Knicks are like trying to win because Tibbs.
Because Tibbs. Exactly.
Tier 7 is my tanking teams, which are Portland, Sacramento, Indiana, Detroit, Orlando, and Houston. And then Tier 8 are the veteran tankers, which is literally just the Oklahoma City Thunder. I have them in a tier all to themselves because they got, what was it, the 5th or 6th pick last year? They want a top 5 pick this year, and they are not risking a Mike Muscala game winner to top them over the top. OKC knows how to tank. They are resting rookies at this stage, right? They're resting Josh Giddey. He hasn't obviously played since December. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, shock and awe. His knee is too sore to continue.
Again.
But I think the thing that just does it for me, and like, you know, tongue-in-cheek, they're in a tier by themselves, but Trey Mann might be ruled out for the rest of the year. And Trey Mann is a bad basketball player. He just happens to score 25 points a game when there's nobody on the fucking court. Like Isaiah Roby had 30 points yesterday. He might get a tap on the shoulder. He might be like, hey man, like we're gonna need none of that. Like your mate Darius Bazley's not playing.
Literally,
he's out.
What's he been doing? I kind of like erased him from my memory. I was so. Every year I've got one person who I'm just inexplicably convinced is going to be excellent, and last year it was Bazley, and I just never want to think about him again.
I was speaking to Alessio's brother Dion, friend of the program, brother of the program. Someone asked him how. Someone asked Dion how Darius Bazley's going, and he was just like, oh, I don't know, man, like 11 points, like, and I was just like, oh. Poor Dion, poor Dante, really?
Yeah.
Because
poor Dion, indeed, an OKC fan. The only thing that I have to say about the bottom of this league, the bottom of the tiers section, is that it's currently a 3-way tie for the worst record in the league between the Pistons, the Magic, and the Rockets.
You need tiebreakers. You need to look at the tiebreakers for who lost. And I think. Well, there's one thing I did want to say is that Detroit, I think they are in the tiebreakers in the less favourable position for this. So I think Detroit would, you know, if they're tied, third-way tie, they go to the third pick.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on, like, OKC are like, okay, let's lose games. Let's never win a game for the rest of the year. Like, go, go, go. And Detroit are like, Cade, finish the season. You're going to win Rookie of the Year. Go out there. You're going to average 30 points for the past week of the season, the last week of the season. Just get some reps. Like, what are your thoughts on, you know, the last 10 games of the year, just playing your best rookies to get exposure and experience compared to
if Cade comes back early next season and has taken his game to a fringe all-star level, then you know the ends justify the means.
Yeah.
Because if you're right and continuing to expose him to high level basketball and allowing him, I think there is value in allowing him to like put all of the things that he's learned throughout the season into action. If you assume that he's added things to his toolkit, he's figured out ways that, you know, the D is going to do this when I do this, like putting that together on the court in an NBA game, I think there's heaps of value in that. And if he hits the ground running next season and he is the generational talent that like everyone thinks he's going to be, then amazing. It doesn't really matter if you get the 5th pick or the 6th pick. If that doesn't happen and you end up on the wrong side of that precipitous drop off that everyone is assuring us there is in this class, where there's maybe like 4 or 5 high level players, and then after that it just drops off, and Cade, you know, comes back next season and he's averaging 18, 5 and 5 like he currently is, then you would probably feel like a fucking idiot. So,
but it's also so much up to chance. Like Detroit could lose this tiebreaker and fall lower in the tanking.
Does
standings.
everyone have their own pick?
Yeah.
Do the Blazers have their own pick? They must. Otherwise, they wouldn't be. Otherwise, they wouldn't be tanking so aggressively.
Oh, special guest. This is Piers Morgan to come finish off the tiers.
Grace us with his presence.
It's actually a dog. What's a dog doing? Trailblazers do. We can talk about all that closer to the lottery. Like let's talk about machinations then.
Yeah.
Like the whole Lakers pick and blah blah blah. Plenty of other people are talking about it. We're going to wait till it actually matters. So, what do we want to do to wrap up? What were the final things on the run sheet? Andrew Wiggins' article on the deep2.com.
It's up now.
It's up. Go give it a read. This is my 3rd article I've written about Andrew Wiggins. He was an enigma to me, and I used to love writing about him. But this article, let's call it a series that's gone on since 2017. This is it. This is the final year. I figured out Andrew Wiggins.
The title is "This is just who Andrew Wiggins is," and you're right in that you have. I've read all of your previous Andrew Wiggins work, sterling journalism, by the way. And your titles were a little bit more florid, and you were like, "Wow, Andrew Wiggins is an enigma. Hey, come with me and let's try and figure out what he might be in the right situation." And now we're here in the right situation, and the title reads to me like a man burdened with cold, hard knowledge of the situation.
Read the final couple of paragraphs.
The final couple of paragraphs. All right, this is like a little spoiler.
Yeah,
if the Warriors end up playing the Timberwolves in the 3-6 playoff slot.
The last three.
The last three. Andrew Wiggins is no longer an enigma. I've done it. Is this what Alan Turing felt like after cracking the German enigma code in World War II?
Just leave it at that.
I haven't seen the movie, so I'll imagine that that's what it felt like.
Have you read the history books?
Yeah, I know. Obviously, not it. Hey, look, man, I'm 20th century. It's actually my least favorite period of history. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. It was Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah. He was really good in it.
The Power of the Dog. I don't know if you've seen that. Power of You, Logan. I watched that whilst I was in COVID isolation. Yeah. Excellent. Obviously won Best Director at the Oscars. Yeah. Crazy. Such a good movie. Benedict Cumberbatch.
Actually, I know we got to go because we've got places to be, but what are your thoughts on the Will Smith slap?
Oh, I mean, like,
don't get too deep.
I resent when pop culture demands me like make like a moral take about something a celebrity does. Like, I just don't actually care. I don't like that. It's like assault is never okay, and then it's like ableism is never okay. It's like everyone's like extrapolating these like moral necessities from this situation, and in actuality, it's just two people who are rich beyond your wildest comprehension involved in something that doesn't involve you at all. And it's fun to comment on for some people, but I just can't get myself there. So it'd be a wet cloth. What do you think about the Will Smith slap?
Well, my take is I deal with modern problems with modern solutions. So I'll doom scroll through a lot of memes. And I was literally just looking through memes the other day, and it was just after it happened. It's on Twitter. Everyone's going nuts. There's like memes here and there. Some takes that I'm just like, come on, man, it's 3:30. Like I don't really want to take right now. Give me that before 12. And someone just shared this meme of like the Mandalorian sitting there just like eating food. And he's like, "Here, have a rest, weary traveller. You've been scrolling through Will Smith memes for too long. Take a rest." And it literally was a rest. I went, and then went right back to it.
Right back to it. Yeah, the memes were good. I did get around the memes. Like that is an undeniable value of a pop culture moment, is that there are tremendous memes. But it's just like their lives are so
different to the rest of the world.
Different to ours in ways that we often don't see. We're like, oh, celebrities, they're just like us. No, they're actually not. In a million ways, they're actually not. And yeah, the power dynamics, the relationship dynamic between him and Chris Rock and Jada Pinkett Smith, like, I don't care. I just don't care. Am I old? I feel old.
You're a fucking white dude with the podcast, bro. You are.
Yeah, if I truly was a white dude with a podcast, it would be like, takes.
We had basketball takes. What do you think we just talked about for an hour?
I'd be jumping on this, and I'd be jumping on this being like takes, but I'm not. So I am sitting in front of a microphone, but in spirit, maybe I'm not.
Do you reckon dog licks are going to come up on the mic?
Yeah, I reckon they potentially might. Is that a good place for us to leave it for this week?
Yeah.
On the dog licks.
I will talk to you next week.
Yeah, talk to you next week.
If you look for PointsBet's stock exchange listing, you'll find a bucket of jargon and doublespeak as they're considered a, quote, wagering services operator, unquote. That's a corporate stretch for the colloquial friendly brogan or, hey, look, it's Chris Bosh kind of image they're sending off with their targeted advertising. I don't know about you, but take me back to the days when former pro sports players signed brand deals with hair loss clinics or Fujitsu aircons, not, quote, wagering service providers.
If you're scrolling through your Facebook feed and you come across the two of our faces morphed into one, would that make you listen to our podcast more? I mean, if it does, let us know and we'll start doing it. But when I see a few NBA players' faces morphed into one, it doesn't make me want to pull out my wallet and donate some money to my local wagering services provider.
The worst part is we're coming to accept it. Wagering service provider ads are so ingrained in our sports and the way sports is delivered to us, it's almost impossible to avoid. 3/4 of Australian children aged between 8 and 16 years who watch sport think that betting on sport is normal and can name one or more sport betting companies. When I was in school, I was struggling to remember Pokemon names, and I'd be furious if I knew that brain power was being used to put towards wagering service providers and not them.
The wagering service providers know exactly who to target. It's not okay to let them ingrain themselves in young Australians' minds. It's not okay to target people in the middle of a pandemic, and it's not okay for gambling companies to wield so much influence in the world of sports. To help kick gambling out of sport, use your voice and sign the petition at www.endgamblingads.org.au/